Hi and welcome to the next episode of ID Cyber Sessions. I'm Steve and this is Alice and we both work at ID Cyber.
Today we are chatting with Chris Kubecka. So normally, Chris, at this point I actually give your job title, but you've actually done so much we find it really hard to succinctly describe what it is that you do. So would you mind actually introducing yourself as you would if someone said, hey, what do you do?
Well, I do a bit of a mix between ethical hacking, cyber diplomacy, advisement to places like the United Nations, and advising on how to keep cyber weaponry in check, which is kind of a good thing. You know, just like nuclear weapons, you don't want them to spread everywhere with everyone. I do some writing, mostly technical books, and lots of fun with cat memes and hacker memes inside my books. Because I believe you have to have fun and have a happy hacker smile when you're actually hacking things. And I'm involved in a lot of very interesting cyber warfare and sometimes interesting espionage, interesting challenges. So I do a bit of everything.
Which I think we're going to hear some about today.
Yes, hopefully. So you're probably most famously known for the Saudi Aramco, the cyber attack, which was the Shamoon virus.
2012 August.
Wow, okay. You got there before I did. So from that, I heard a story that during when that happened, that there was like private jets involved where basically went round and collected all the hard drives to get you back online. Is that true?
So, fun fact about Saudi Aramco, they were the first company to be worth trillions, way before Apple and all that kind of stuff. That was just, unfortunately, Western media not picking up to the fact that Saudi Aramco at the time of 2012, before the attack, was, I believe, worth 8 times as much as the country of India. Wow. So they also have the largest private fleet of aircraft at their disposal. Any size, any type, you name it. And when the incident occurred, since they do make a very tidy profit to be worth upwards of around estimated $13 to $20 trillion, they were able to purchase basically the world's supply of hard drives at the time, fly their jets to the factory floors and pick them up. Now, to complicate matters a little bit, there had been a series of misfortunes occurring in Asia at the time, where most of these parts are actually manufactured. So there was already a bit of a shortage. So what it entailed was, the gentleman I used to work with in the Houston office, he said basically he had to fill out the paperwork for it, and he had never seen so many zeros in real life on a piece of paper to purchase all of the hard drives directly from the factory floors, and they were brought back on Saudi Aramco jets and various different types of aircraft to try to get the company back up and running as quickly as possible.
That's mad. I mean, how many companies could actually do that if they had a cyber attack like that and needed to replace it? I think that's probably the only company, and one of only a few companies in the world that would actually be able to achieve that.
Exactly, and because they do make a tidy profit, they don't have a need to buy insurance. So imagine any other company not having the need to buy insurance or cyber insurance or anything like that for an incident. Wow. If you're not in that position, well, let's just say you were maybe wish you had purchased cyber insurance or something along those lines. Yeah. So it was a unique situation where to any other company, they would have gone completely under. They would have had to have been, for example, bailed out on a major level. It could have caused different types of economic crises around the world because of it to try to get them up and running. They were too big to fail, but that did not occur.
No, because there was 2 stages to that, wasn't there? There was a DDoS after that, wasn't there?
Well, there was even more.
Oh, was there? Okay.
And there's even behind story as well. So the date that it occurred, depending on if you're a Sunni or a Shia, was during Ramadan, but that day or night is either referred to as a night of blessing, or if you're Shia, the night of power, because of what happened to a gentleman by the name of Ali after Muhammad's death. They're trying to figure out who should succeed Muhammad. And there was a bit of challenges, we'll say. And Ali, who was, some had believed should have been next in line, while he was praying, actually got assassinated. So then that there started to be a division. Now, Iran and Saudi, Saudi is Sunni, Iran is Shia. And Iran had recently been hit by something called flame. And Iran was not too happy about it because it was affecting some of their operations, and chose the exact date of the attack when Shamoon occurred on their night of power.
Wow, okay.
And reused some of the flame malware to put into the Shamoon code, and only the Saudi Aramco version of Shamoon had a burning American flag. The Qatari version at Razgas did not.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've learned. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And looking back at your kind of work history, it's quite interesting because in the kind of like early 2000s, it looks like you were more kind of involved in kind of corporate setups. Kind of, yeah, I mean, that's what your LinkedIn suggests, is that the kind of corporate side of things.
Yeah.
But then it kind of looked like Saudi Aramco was almost like a tipping point for you then becoming a bit more towards the kind of front line of cyber warfare. Would you say that's fair? Or
No. So, oh gosh, I don't want to sound, don't you know who I am? Oh, that'd be terrible. So, in July 2009, there was a series of attacks, three-wave attacks, that came out of North Korea. And at the time, we had interesting clients where we had visibility across both IT infrastructure and operational technology. And some of our clients happened to be in London. They had their own connections, high-speed trading, things of that nature. And on the initialization of the first wave of attacks, we started picking up on some very interesting traffic. By the time I started to figure out kind of what was going on, there were maybe about 300,000 systems around the EU and the UK, specifically using some of the high-speed trading lines in London to aim a DDoS attack against South Korea, and then part of the US infrastructure and part of the FAA, which is the Civil Aviation Authority in the United States. So during that time, I was able to coordinate to start getting certain things shut off to try to halt part of the second wave of attacks. So you can see my picture of a graphic representation of almost 300,000 systems, with in the middle a skull and crossbones, which was the primary target in South Korea, up on the Wikipedia page of either cyber warfare or July 2009 South Korean attacks. So,
yeah, you've actually been frontline for longer than the
I just
internet
don't-
suggests. Yeah.
I don't know how to describe myself.
Yeah, this is
I
why
look
I
at
asked.
fun in technology.
This is why we're like, I'm not describing you at the start because we're going to let you.
Yeah, it's really difficult. I was like, don't think we can do this intro.
I don't even know how to describe myself, seriously, except for anything I can put my hands on in technology that is fun, that can try to make a difference, is something that I enjoy. And I get bored easily, so I have to learn new things. I have new challenges, to talk to new people, to live and be passionate about everything that I love to do in the digital space.
You just mentioned there about being bored, so I'm going to sort of pivot a little bit and talk about another type of board. And you talk about communication. I've seen the various talks that you've done, and you talk about ways of getting messages across to the board, because sometimes a lot of people in security, it's like, oh, how do I talk to the board? How do I get that message across? How do I get that extra funding, etc.? Have you got any examples of how you would advise people to potentially get that message across and potentially getting other people involved in that process?
Absolutely. So look at the language that the board is actually using. Now, some of that language is common with cybersecurity. We use the words exploit, opportunity, exfiltration, things of that nature. Obviously, in the business world, it's utilized in a little bit of a different way. But the concepts are the same. Know the language. Also, they're very driven by risk and legality. And you can leverage those things. I was talking earlier with Carrie that the SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission in the United States, recently published guidelines which stated that any publicly traded company, if they have a cyber incident of a certain nature, including a data leak, must publicly inform their shareholders and the public and the SEC within 24 hours, because obviously you don't want to invest in a lemon, right? You want to know if all of the intellectual property is at risk before you invest. There is a prime example of board members are now going to be going, what is the outcome for this? Am I going to be responsible? Am I going to be liable? Could there be criminal charges? Will we be pulled in front of, say, the Senate or the Parliament or whatever to give evidence and describe this stuff? And these are things that are coming down the line now. And it's imperative that we look at some of the board language, the business language. You don't have to have an MBA. But it would be a good idea to go ahead and look at, say, various press releases of a company, also how board members are described and how they describe their company, and you'll pick up on that language. As a pen tester, you might say, view it kind of as a dictionary attack and collect all of the terms that are off the website and then utilize that for the attack. Same concept, except you're going to be presenting the risk to the board, utilizing their exact language.
Mm-hmm. And thinking as well, so coming back to you yourself and the kind of level of the severity of the kinds of things you're looking at, what do you do if the board just, if a company just won't listen to you? How do you cover yourself, or how do you deal with that?
Well, there's also another aspect, and that is, depending on the company, the type of market they're in, and so forth, is there also risk to national security? Mm-hmm. If it is a chemical processing plant, for example, that would be a little bit different of a situation than an accounting firm that has only 500 clients and none of them touch on interesting clients, right? But if there are cases like that, what I have done in the past, which has been very helpful, make friends with the auditor and discuss things with the CFO, because the CFO will be extremely risk-oriented and have way more sway than basically any other board member. And if you can do your, say, elevator pitch as to what the problem is in 5 minutes or less, and the CFO is like, yeah, this is a problem, then that's going to happen. Mm-hmm. If someone is dragging their feet and you make friends with the auditor and go, you know, I have some questions, I'm not sure, have they applied for a waiver? That's a magic word with some auditors. And then they're like, oh, waiver, nobody asked for this. Wait a second. Make friends with the auditor. There are different ways to come at this from different angles. But look at the financial side, auditors and CFO, and they will be your bridge in.
And then as well, when you get to the extreme end of it as well, I've heard of a story that you've told before about a company with a conflicker worm. And then...
Oh! I wish this was Scotch.
I think we're getting flashbacks.
Have we inadvertently traumatized?
This is what happens. Yeah, there are so many things like, you also have to cover your own ass very carefully in writing. And that, so many situations. Hopefully I'll reference the right one, because conflict was a bit of a nightmare. So we'll just say that a company, perhaps through poor patch management and management, happened to get a monitoring system infected with conflicker, and because there was constant flow to the client networks. They actually infected all of the clients worldwide.
Oh.
And I remember the day because I was eating lunch, and my boss, his nickname was something. He liked to drink Coca-Cola. Let's just put it that way. And he comes up to me at lunch. Oh, Chris, blah blah blah. This happened. You have to come now. And I go, no, because a month ago I sent you in writing that the person who was administering a Windows box had no experience and refused to understand that patches were necessary. And I sent that to you in writing last month. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to eat my lunch. And I ate my lunch. And he watched me for a while. I didn't even hurry. And I ate my lunch. And then I went downstairs and I go, huh. So yeah. I put this in writing. I just, resent you that email. It's your responsibility.
I bet that was a really good tasting sandwich.
Yeah. Great. It was great. So also understanding that it might seem like you might have to jump in and do those things. Sometimes managers need to rescue themselves and cover your own ass.
Yeah.
And then start looking for a better job where you're happy.
All excellent advice. So you're quite active on social media, and there's certain social media platforms, LinkedIn for business, etc. And you've got experience with LinkedIn, good and bad. I think you know where this is going. I think someone wanted to hire you for a specific task, and would you want to tell that story about who that was and kind of?
So, I don't know. Gosh, COVID's really messed with my timeline. So, as with everything, there's a bit of a backstory. There was a person by the name of Monica Witt who was a member of the U.S. Air Force. And through her career and her intelligence career, she converted and then defected to Iran, taking a lot of information with her. There's actually a Wikipedia page on Monica Witt. And I guess in her infinite wisdom, she was tasked with setting up very high-level cyber operations, offensive operations for Iran. And she made a list, checked it twice, of people that were naughty or would be naughty for enough money. I guess I happen to be on one of those naughty lists. So they contacted me through LinkedIn. By the way, LinkedIn still has problems reporting things correctly. But at the time, LinkedIn had no reporting functionality of, if somebody sends you an interesting pictures that they should never, they didn't have a reporting function. So I get contacted for what appears to be a training opportunity. First, I think it's in the United States. And then getting into it, I find out a little bit more. They're trying to cultivate a relationship. And I understand a little bit of Arabic culture, but of course, Iran is not predominantly Arabic. So trying to figure out with the flowery speech, which was a bit more than what I would get from a Arab. And they were trying to woo me, basically. I won't say love bombing, but, in the, I guess, spy v. spy world, maybe. And so they started sweetening the pot and then said, gave certain information like, oh, yeah, we do this, but we're just the telecom. We just need training for our people. No, it's defensive training to maybe like the SANS has a certification called, it's for OT, but it's not very technical. It's GISCP or something like that. Then they're like, you see, we can't take a SANS course for it because, of course, SANS isn't supposed to allow Iranian citizens or North Koreans to take their courses. right?
Okay.
Due to sanctions,
Yeah.
little things called sanctions. And then they're like, oh, actually, we got our people into the sands in London, but they said it wasn't very technical. What we need you to do is come here. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. We'll pay you $100,000 a month to come here, and then we'll sweeten it and set you up with basically a VVIP tour. We'll get you to shake hands on picture, and they mentioned some general's name, and. By the way, what we really want is, like, how do you pen test critical infrastructure? How do you pen test specifically a nuclear facility?
Oh, is that all?
Oh, wow.
So
That's
they were
very specific.
very specific. So I'm like collecting names and stuff and all this stuff in the background going, oh, yeah, I'm never going to make it out alive because how do you leave, right? And I don't really want to go to prison in Iran or any place else, or the United States for that matter. I was collecting information, and they, you're trying to sweeten it a little bit more and trying to offer me gifts. Fun tip, if an agent is trying to handle you, do not accept any gifts, or do not do any favors, because that's one of the ways that they tie you. You've now accepted officially a bribe, even a watch, even a bottle of water from a sanctioned country means that you've broken the law and they can use that against you.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's why you don't want to do that. Also, don't accept gifts from the Iranian government. Just don't. And then with our other conversations, I'm like, I don't think I'm going to be able to do business with y'all because, well, how can my EU business do business with Iran? They're like, oh, we do business with lots of EU countries. And this is on WhatsApp. We'll show you how. So a couple of days later, I had a presentation at an OWASP conference, and I actually talked a little bit about it and showed the screenshot because I thought it was hilarious. Over WhatsApp, a person who worked for the Iranian telecom was basically telling me how to break sanctions to get payment from the Iranian government.
Wow.
In WhatsApp.
Yeah.
Completely unprompted. So I had been trying to contact the U.S. authorities, but I don't think I was contacting the right people. I tried the CIA tip line, and I went to their PR line, and it was a recording, and it gave you a number assigned to you, and that was it. And I'm like, this is a CIA tip line. Why does it say it's CIA public relations when that's, public? Anyway, so I got no help until I met a person at a friend's retirement party who happened to, be in FBI, U.S. Marshal kind of stuff. And he's like, and I got this message going, oh, we would love your home address so we can send you a gift. And I'm just like, burst out laughing at the party going, the Iranians want to send me a gift. And this guy's listening like, excuse me? I was at West Point at the time, as you do.
It's going to raise flags.
So they got involved. And then they advised me that I may be at risk because 3 other people had been recently assassinated by Iran and the Netherlands. The Iranians did not take it lightly. They doxed me on religious extremist websites, took pictures of my home, my dog, everything like that. So then I hacked the shiznit out of them. I read a new Iranian law, now it's about 3 or 4 years old, which stated to ensure that women kept their hijab on any mixed gender entertainment facility, including restaurants, would have to have an IoT camera that fed back to the religious portion of the police to ensure that women kept their hijab on, or that women were sitting in the family section, not the bachelor section. There's a division in some Muslim countries where you can sit. And gosh, brand new law, tens of thousands of cameras going to one single location. I thought, how good would the security be on those cameras? That would be hard to administer over 10,000 new IoT cameras. So the likelihood is that they would all share the same username and password. Interesting. And the Iranian government can only purchase hardware and software from certain countries like China. So China perhaps has a problem with IoT cameras having really poor security. He said, I just love to buy their stuff and legally hack it. and then come up with my own stuff, and I get a bunch of CVEs and everything like that. So I decided to explore, because what's going to happen? You know, the Iranians dox my house. Well, you want to play games? So I hacked all of their cameras. I could even adjust the resolution and turn on audio. So I gave that information to perhaps, you know, people that I met in the United States that have worked for 3-letter agencies. So I turned their entire surveillance state against them.
And then what?
No. So then, you know, I went public with what was going on. And so they sent a bunch of death threats. I had to be under police protection for 9 months the year before last. I was not too pleasant when they would send me death threats, perhaps. So the police said I wasn't allowed to talk mean to them anymore. So on one of the death threats, I had the guy's number. So I contacted a friend in the Netherlands who works for special people. And I go, yeah, can you trace this number, perhaps? Oh, yeah. So he found a domain that had been registered to that phone number. And when I went onto the domain and checked out the host that was hosting, it was an entire propaganda network from Iran that was set up on this host. He had given away an entire operation, which, of course, at this point, I had contacts. So within a few days, FBI noticed this has been taken down. So he blew an entire operation just to send me a really silly death threat. So basically, if you're listening, Iran, I like to hack your stuff. So anything they do to me, I try to do better. My favorite quote from the whole experience is, "Revenge is best served over IoT."
Oh, wow.
I love how blasé you are about death threats. It's just like, oh, I just got some death threats. It's fine.
Is that just because you've had so many, or just
Yeah, I've just had so many.
they're just nothing?
All I know is I don't have to save up for retirement if they come true, and it'll be quick, so fine. You know, don't have to worry about Social Security or whatever running out of money. Woohoo!
So moving on from death threats, which I never thought I would say in an interview, but anyway, you were moving. Obviously, you were on the move for 9 months. How did you deal mentally, like when you were going from place to place and having to move probably quick? You know, right? Actually, we've had our intelligence. You need to move now. We need to move you. How did you find that mentally? How did you deal with that?
Well, it was interesting. A bit stressful, especially when things would happen where, oh no, we think your address has been given away, or things like that. So you have to be prepared. Contacting friends who arranged for those quick getaways if I needed to, and supporting me with, when I had to make a phone call to, let's see, I called the non-emergency line in the Netherlands, and I go, listen, I've had a pretty serious death threat. And so explaining, and how do you explain that until the other person thinks that you're absolutely insane? Mm-hmm. And you're like, no, just check my name and you will see this is valid. And so I had to have a friend contact the Dutch police on my behalf, because at first I think they thought I was insane, from another country. So you get in touch with friends. There's best friends and there's friends who will help you bury a body, or when the Iranian government is threatening you. And so a good way to meet some of those friends is through good conferences and networking. That's very important. And they also were very, very helpful. And making sure that I always had safe locations, that I had support in whatever country I was at. So there was additional security. Things were coordinated, like when I was in Austria, between the Austrians and the Dutch. When I had to visit the UK during that time, it was coordinated with them. And it was friends, very good friends, who helped me keep me safe, as well as, obviously, national authorities. Wow. So
good friends to have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So was there anything during that time that you missed, that you just like wanted to be home, like what you missed from home, and so you weren't?
Yeah, a whole lot. Like my own bed,
Yeah.
It's a
being
given.
able to, have a full night's sleep comfortably without having that one ear open for anything. I had to leave my phone on, so any sort of messages were ding,
course,
ding, ding,
yeah.
ding. So it was interesting. It's not something I would like to repeat. I'd like to avoid that. So yeah, it was a bit stressful.
Then you're also used to being in jeopardy. Like I followed along on Twitter when you were in Kiev at the time when Russia invaded Ukraine. I was actually wondering, what were you? Because I think you moved in quite quickly before that happened. Were you helping prepare cyber defences and things like that?
A bit of that, and also because that was very important. I was there for specifically if something happened on the nuclear space,
Oh, okay.
either current production or decommissioned. I'd gotten bored a few years ago and ended up hacking the Chernobyl radiation detector and reported it to U.S. certain stuff. Again, don't let me get bored. So that's how they got my name. But also, I'd had some distant cousins that I was trying to connect with. World War II had kind of split things off, and war. It happens, unfortunately. And then, unfortunately, Russia escalated the war, and there was so much cyber going on. It was absolutely bloody ridiculous. From before I landed, the moment I landed, the buildup, so you could tell it was also partially psychological. Now you've got troops on the Belarusian border, you've got troops on the border of Transnistria, Moldova, and then you have Russian troops as well, right? So three sides, basically. You're kind of sweating if you're Ukrainian, right? And then all the saber rattling, and then you can't get cash out of any ATM machines. Suddenly your ID application, the Daria application, it's starting to have some problems. You try to go to the foreign currency exchange, they can't get cash either. This was building up before, right? And there were all sorts of things that were just building up. Like, was it a frog boiling?
Yeah.
And I would ask people in Kiev, like, what do you think of this or that about, the ATM machines not working or whatever? They're like, oh, yeah, it's Russia. We just expect it. And it's so demoralizing because people literally just expect, oh, that website isn't working. Oh, then Russia. Oh, our electricity went up. No, must be a cyber attack from Russia. It's just, so common.
That kind of thing as well just isn't really reported in the mainstream media over here. Like, I had no clue.
Yeah, yeah. It's just, yeah, it's them hitting us with cyber or whatever. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's just expected. Like partially, cloudy, chance of a cyber attack, moving in on Tuesday, there might be hail and a DDoS.
Yeah.
But it was already ingrained. And you have to understand, this has been going on since 2014. And it was ingrained since then. So there's already been, some trauma, cyber trauma. There's got to be a good term for this, a better term for this. And then when troops started rolling in the east, fun fact, Putin is into numerology, right? Okay. One of the things that they did was the water system on the 21st of February got hit by a cyber attack in Luhansk, shutting down water operations. Russia reported it as the Ukrainians supposedly attacking Luhansk and shutting off the water, causing a humanitarian crisis. That was not the case. Then there was an explosion at the water facility, and Russia used this as an excuse. Look at what they're doing to our people. They're causing a humanitarian crisis. They won't even allow water. 22nd of February, tanks roll it. 2/22/22. You look at Georgia, also numerology. So the propaganda out there is clearly, proven incorrect. And the whole thing, cyber. They tried to knock out Zelensky's phone while I was in the middle of fleeing, and he was using a satellite phone. The interconnected nature, plus space and cyber, don't go hand in hand still. So it took out communications on a bunch of wind turbines all across Germany, the Netherlands. Here, knocked out communications for part of the French Space Agency, amongst other, and affected a bunch of maritime shipping communications because that's one of the redundant on the larger cargo ships for satellite communications. And so they lost contact. Do you really want to do that? No, maybe not.
This is on a whole nother scale.
So all of this stuff, you might have troops, but one of the things that I found fascinating is the cyber involved, right? It's been kind of an equalizing force because Russia does have more physical troops, but the cyber stuff of keeping things on and pushing back has been absolutely amazing, absolutely amazing. All of the interesting things like when we were helping to get some of the students and vulnerable people out of Sumy and Kherson and other places, having to use different types of OSINT, closed source, you name it, coordinate with people in 20 different languages. Thank goodness there's good translation software nowadays, mapping. Street signs were gone, GPS was frazzled and closed off to the public. So having to coordinate where real locations are in a secure manner to these people to rescue people and do things like that and to leverage that technology that was constantly also at risk by Russia or any of their affiliates is absolutely amazing. It's not so amazing for the human factor, but it also shows us that things like cyber war, many academics say that there's never been a real instance. I would absolutely disagree. And also, this is showing where we are right now. Sure, there's lots of weapons, but for example, the Ukrainian IT army has over 200,000 members, and they were able to set that up from people around the world, whether they were in cyber or in comms or in whatever, to try to help out with the situation. The Cyber Army Z, or Z is the Russian version. They've got about 180,000 people on their various channels. So it shows you what's really going on behind the scenes and how much cyber operations is being utilized right now against IT, OT, you name it.
National infrastructure is massive as well, because as you say, everything, wind turbines, you name it. You've kind of answered my question already, but do you now see that every conflict now is going to have a cyber element beforehand or during and after?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So before the escalation last year, it started kicking off between Armenia and Azerbaijan. And it was almost like a playbook that you could put over the Ukrainian-Russian current conflict. The attacks on drones, the weaponization of drones, sending them back to their troops, all of the surveillance tech, the weapons, who was involved giving cyber arms to whom is very, very important. Key data leaks for both psychological effect, but also, for instance, to, blackmail and control and manipulate certain key parties in the opposing country. And medical data, it's supposed to be secure, but lots of things were set up. This was during COVID as well. So emergency labs set up, no security, no privacy whatsoever, and that would give you access to other additional medical records for, say, a minister who might be HIV positive and never told anybody in a predominantly Islamic country like Azerbaijan. How can that information be leveraged?
Yeah.
And so a lot of this kind of stuff was going on. And it was amazing to see that, and then of course being caught up in Ukraine and going, all right, this is going on for here. Yep, the same kind of stuff. So we really need to look at this really is going on and how we can learn from it. Because we're seeing the playbooks used over and over again. Just after the escalation of the war, Moldova basically came under attack. They have part of their country called Transnistria, breakaway 31 years ago. And they have, last estimate, 1,500 Russian peacekeeping troops. There's only about 650 last time I was there. They needed troops elsewhere. And there, Moldova got just overrun with bomb threats all over their country, starting in March of last year. Their airport, as soon as airspace was opened back up in Chisinau, got shut down because of bomb threats. Schools were shut down. Petrol distribution facilities, they were already suffering from the rise in price, and Moldova is known as the poorest country in Europe. So they were getting hammered away. Businesses were closing. People were going out of work due to cyber attack. How do you recover? If you don't have the money of Aramco, you better have cyber insurance. How do you get cyber insurance in Moldova? You can't.
Yeah.
And they were just getting so hammered. Now we are getting reports from Finland, who now are experiencing the same types of things. And a couple of other countries are announcing it now, as of this week and part of last week, that they are also now getting flooded with the same types of bomb threats that occurred in Moldova. Isn't that funny?
Your playbooks. Yeah.
It's absolutely book.
Yeah.
So we have to look at these things.
Wow. So do you feel that what's going on currently with Israel and Hamas is there's definitely going to be a cyber element there as well?
Oh, there already is, and there already has been a cyber element going on. And I see some of the stuff that has been used for the playbooks from, we'll just say Iran and Russia, being used in Israel right now. So I already warned my friends between them hiding their children in a safe room and so forth, going, I'm telling you this, I can pinpoint which country is doing what because this is their playbook. And please expect the following to start occurring as well.
It's almost like a fingerprint that identifies that country or that state.
Yeah. I want to kind of amalgamate some of what we've been speaking about here with what Steve was talking about earlier with social media. And obviously you live a life of jeopardy like half the time, but you're also quite open on social media. Like I noticed when you were flying over to Scotland, you actually put a here I am on the plane, I'm flying here. How do you like kind of balance the threat you're almost constantly under, but the fact that you're actually very open and transparent about where you are and what you're doing?
So the advice I was given was when I am traveling, it would be a bit difficult to scramble a hit team or anybody else to know where I was landing, et cetera, or where I might be staying, all this kind of stuff. Obviously not make big announcements beforehand, but usually just, on the way, because I still believe that I should have a life.
Yeah.
And I don't like bullies to win. But try to be a bit more closed with travel plans. But at the same time, like I'll be doing some conferences next month. But again, local authorities, if something happens, they are already aware of wherever I travel.
Because of course, because you are a long-term volunteer with B-Sides Las Vegas, so that's probably a fairly predictable movement for you as well, which is
where I might be. But again, I have to have my own life, and if I don't, that means that they win.
The bullies.
And that sucks.
So do you have any regrets about your career and what you've done and the choices you've made?
I wish I had done a startup early on which handled blockchain, artificial intelligence, and I got to throw quantum in there. Although I am writing a real paper on quantum right now. That would have been nice. Then we would be on my own private island. But other than that, I wish maybe I knew more people.
Wow.
One of the most important things I found in all of this is get to know people. And when you know people, and especially when you travel, no one can know everything in cyber or, everything. So you have to have friends, and you have to know people, and you have to network. And I think in our particular roles in career, we're pretty lucky to have things like B-Sides and other conferences like B-Sides that foster a welcoming feeling when you go in there, instead of a, oh yes, put on the suit, mustache. Oh, did I go to Oxford? Yes, 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 yes. So we don't have that type of community. We have an open and welcoming community. Take advantage of it, and get to know people. And then you can also ask questions. I'm not an expert in X, Y, Z. I'm going to ask questions. Or if a friend goes, do you know X, Y, and Z? Go, I don't, but Steve or Alice does. And these are, ways to learn, elevate, and help other people as well. So networking, and especially things like B-sides. It's very, very good.
Can't 100% back that one up.
Yes.
Although I've been in IT for years, cyber's new to me, and Alice and Scott introduced me to, the world of B-sides and conferences, and the rest is history.
Yeah, it's life changing.
Oh, I wish I owned more hoodies.
We'll see what we can do.
Another question as well, just about you're kind of talking about kind of communities and the kind of things that obviously you kind of do outside work, but like apart from kind of hacking stuff and community work and all that kind of thing, what do you do in your downtime? Do you ever get downtime?
Well, sometimes I do. I couldn't bring it on this trip. I wanted to. I like to brew my own ciders, meads, wines. When I say wines, I make lovely ones like a tomato wine sherry. It has no grapes. And, things with fruity bits and all sorts of foraging. And I can make my own cheese. I might have become too Dutch living there. So I can make, gouda, amongst other things. And I make my own vinegars. And I do things like that, because I figure it's easier to talk to people who are not in the field about home brewing than it is about cyber warfare at a dinner party.
Yeah, that gives you your small talk.
Yeah, exactly. Plus, I made this great series of a cider, a bit of pear to add lift to the sugar, and then I went foraging for berries, and so it's a mix of foraged wild berries, strawberry, and I think blueberry. Cider. Yeah.
That's a surprise. I did not think you would say that.
There you go.
Wow, I'm still taking that in. So you've released books technical books about OSINT. Have you got anything else in the pipeline that you're working on?
I do. So I've got an update. I'm in the process of updating my first book, Down the Rabbit Hole on OSINT Journey. Remembered it? Which had some interesting targets, we'll say, with a political lean. But now it's going to be interesting targets of how to find money trails and perhaps, know which exploits to use and vulnerabilities when it comes to very naughty sanctioned entities like PMC, Wagner, and some of the malware that they're using, how you can track some of it, the documents that they sent around, which U.S. technology companies are openly breaking sanctions by offering them services. Because there's this fun organization called sanctions.org, which makes the URLs up that you can get reported from any company to then shut off access. But some of these U.S. companies decided not to use it. And where they're located as well, and on, say, U.S. hosting providers that, again, should not be offering them services to basically, aim their cyber weaponry against the UK, the US, and our allies. So, I don't really have any fears that Russia is going to arrest me for hacking. So I'll be listing some of those things and the tools and the techniques, lots of cat memes as well. So a deep dive into that. And also currently in the process of 4 chapters into 10, writing about my experiences with Ukraine and also the operation that was set up to get, I think last count was about 7,000 students. Wow. And all the cyber and political pawns and weird influencers who were crazy, and all of that, tigers and jaguars in Luhansk. So that will be included, and also a bit cathartic because I have my own issues still ongoing with the escalation. So those 2 are in the pipeline, and I'm trying to make them as fun as possible. Lots of cat memes and snarky writing about Ukraine.
Sounds like a good combination, doesn't it?
Well, apart from your own books, which we'll include a link in the video description to those, are there any kind of books or podcasts or blogs from other people in the industry that you would recommend?
Yes, there are. I will give you a list because right now I'd have to get the information. One in particular, he's in Israel. We got to meet through a mutual friend, Karen El-Lazari, who did a TED Talk about 12 years ago. The hackers are the immune system to the internet. Very good talk.
Yes.
Fortunately, he got doxxed on Iranian national television a year and a half ago. And so he now is writing about that and blogging and so forth. So that would be a very good one to follow, as well as I can give you a list of a couple of others that are really, really good. That'll give some good insight from real people who also, if you ping them, they'll probably message back like I usually do. So real people.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'll put your recommendations into the description of the video.
Yeah,
Fair.
definitely.
Thank you.
That's all we've got time for. So I just want to thank Chris for coming along and sharing our insights into her crazy life. If you want to know what we do here at ID Cyber, you can check us out at idcybersolutions.com, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.